Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Hidden Life Manual. In this space, we try to find solutions to life's problems that we encounter on a daily basis and how to think about those problems in a particular way while finding the most optimal solution for the problems that we face. Today's discussion would be focused on conditioning of identity. So, how we are conditioned and how do we actually work in the world? How our personalities are created from the past conditioning that happened in our lives, from the society, from parents, from friends, from people we have, from the country that we live in, and from the experiences that we expose ourselves to. So let's try to identify how the conditioning of identity happens. So the first phase that we have for conditioning of identity is installation phase. In this phase, we just mirror whatever happens around us. So if people are smiling, we smile. If people are sad, we feel sad. We mirror our caregivers. We mirror what kind of emotions the people around us are experiencing, and whatever the experiences that we are getting and the emotions that we are getting from the surrounding, from the people around us, is what we feel. And whatever the lessons that we get from them, we continue to feel that, and then this emotion that we feel is tagged in our brains. So our brain does not actually remember logic, it remembers the emotions that we felt on a particular thing that happened, and what kind of emotions we consistently felt in certain situations, and that reinforces itself. That repetition stays as a mapping in our brain. So that's our next stage. The first one is installation phase, where some experiences, some surroundings around us install um, a belief, a thinking, a way of acting inside us. And then once we get that information, we go into emotional tagging. Inside our brain, we tag those learnings and emotions into a particular emotion that we are feeling at this point. And then later on, we create an identity that this is who I am, this is how I operate, this is, we just give a definition to our identity. I am anxious, I am a great speaker, I am a bad speaker, I am a reader, or I am a person with a good mindset. So it's all identity illusion that we create in our brain, that this is who I am, because we like to label things, we like to understand. Just for the sake of understanding, we try to label ourselves and put a definition inside our brain. That does not mean that everybody operates in this way, but when this is the default way of understanding the world and giving the identity to ourselves, and understanding ourselves. Now moving on to the next phase. So the first one was installation, emotional tagging, and then identity illusion, and the final one is conditioning as protection. When we feel that the particular emotion that we felt, and this is how I did, and this is the particular way of doing it, and it is not harmful. So if I learned to do a particular thing in a certain way, then I don't feel threatened, I don't feel danger in repeating that, because I know how I operated in the past. So let's try to understand these 4 steps of conditioning from few examples. I can give one example about myself. When I was young, my mother used to say that every person has good traits and bad traits, positive traits and negative traits. It's up to you, whatever you want to choose and learn from them. So your choice defines whatever you want to learn and what kind of a person you will be, and what do you learn from them. So you can learn the negative traits as well, but the choice is in your hands, and you are the one who chose learning the negative traits. If you are learning, if you are deciding that. So that's the installation phase that happened with me. this understanding came into my um, knowledge that if I meet somebody, they will have both kind of personalities, both kind of traits, positive and negative. But it's up to me whatever I want to achieve and what is it that I want to learn from them. So that kind of set the foundation for me. And then emotional tagging. When I started doing it in my real life and I started learning things from people. If somebody's good at sports, I learn from them certain kind of tips and tricks. How do they do it? How they are good about it? So I was always curious about knowing from people how do they do a particular thing. So that made me learn from them, and in this whole process I was learning the positive things because I was conditioned in that way. So that's the emotional tagging. I tagged happiness, enjoyment, curiosity with learning positive traits from people. Then identity illusion. For me, that was an illusion as well as reality. That I can learn from people and I can learn the positive traits, and everybody has something positive. So I am a learner, and I am a positive learner. I am a positive trait learner from people. um, that kind of helped me in multiple areas of my life. And then the final phase is conditioning as protection, because now I know I can learn anything from anyone and I can choose that positive or negative direction. So that's a decision up to myself. So that helped me learn positive traits from people, and also I was conditioned that this is safe to do and I can do it and I can learn from them, and there won't be any harm in doing so. So this was one example that I can share from my personal experience. Another one can be, we are trying to understand how these 4 steps go into every learning that we do, every identity that we create. The another one is, if there is a child who has been mocked of talking in public, and then he loses confidence. So the first one is installation phase. If he speaks for the first time and somebody mocks him, and then he feels humiliated, so he attaches the emotion of humiliation with speaking, and then he tries to avoid speaking, and then this was the emotional tagging. And then in the third level, which is identity illusion, here he created an identity illusion that I am someone who cannot speak in public, or I am someone is who struggles in speaking in public. But he does not know that it takes practice and the installation that happened inside his brain. He focused on that installation and not actually challenged it. That's why he's at that stage where he has an identity illusion, and also he made it a reality that I cannot speak in public because I am not good at it, and he just need to think of it in a different way. But that is a tagging and identity illusion that he created. And then conditioning as kind of permanent and protection for him, because he is kind of now not speaking in public because that feels safe. Now whenever there is an opportunity to speak in public, he tries to shut himself or herself, and she then they this feels like natural for that person, and he does not put himself into harsh situations where he might have to speak, because he has created an identity and now taking the protection of that conditioning. But this is stopping his growth and also becoming a better version of himself. So this is another example. We will try to understand it with one more example. When I was young and I used to go through certain criticisms in my life, and then I used to come and talk to my father about it, that this happened with me and somebody said XYZ to me. I also want to respond verbally and I want to say something to them, that this is not who I am, and why do you want to talk to me like that? Something when I was pretty young, and I didn't know how to um, function when there is criticism from the external world, from people around me. Um, so he used to give me a great example of Sachin Tendulkar. He said Sachin Tendulkar is a great Indian cricketer, and he says that everybody used to mock Sachin Tendulkar when he is not performing well. But he does not go and talk to them or respond verbally to their verbal criticism. He responds to them by his performance. So he converts all that criticism and the aggression that is coming from that criticism into his performance, and then his bat speaks. And this was such a great learning, and it used to fill me with enthusiasm that I don't actually have to go into the battleground that others are creating. I have my own battleground, I have my own world. So why not focus more on what I'm working upon rather than focus on what others are saying? So you can convert your criticism into something that you are doing. So criticism creates aggression, and that aggression you can redirect into doing something great in your life rather than responding to that particular person, because that is a playground of that person. They can talk about things, and that is a neurotic trait, but that's their ground. But your ground is focusing on your life and becoming a better version of yourself and doing good in whatever you do. So why not use the aggression that you're getting from this criticism and apply it into achieving something in life? um, so this again goes through all the four phases. Installation by my father, that criticism can be used, and the aggression that you get from the criticism can be used to change your life. And then emotional tagging, I tagged enthusiasm with criticism with enthusiasm. So that was a great layer of tagging, that whenever there is a criticism and there will be aggression, do not use it into doing something or in the playground that the other person is using. Use it in your field, and that used to fill me with enthusiasm. So this was a conversion from criticism to enthusiasm. And the next one is identity illusion. I created an identity illusion and a reality for myself that I can use any kind of criticism or anything that is bad happening in my life. I can use that to function better into my life and respond um, using my actions rather than words. And the final one is the conditioning as protection. So now I have learned it that I can do it. So criticism is not something that I used to fear. I know I can use the energy that comes from criticism and redirect it in a different direction. So this was the conditioning of identity, and there can be hundreds of examples of how your identity is conditioned. How did you become the person you have become now, and the way you think? So if you also want to understand how your identity is conditioned, then you might have to sit with yourself and identify how you identify yourself. What do you think about yourself? Once you identify what you think about yourself, then you can backtrack from there, how it came into your brain and the existence in your world, and then use it to do your own analysis for your self growth, that this is the area that I want to grow. And why do I want to grow? Because I was conditioned in this way. But first, that understanding has to come, and that understanding will come from you sitting in silence and doing your own analysis, understanding yourself, and doing this in an unbiased way. This is a difficult task, but it's doable, and the benefit of it would be pretty great, because you would be changing your personality in a positive direction by knowing. So this is kind of creating yourself to uh, better person, making yourself a better person. So that's it for this video. See you next time.